Hello and welcome to Full Tech Ahead. I'm your host, Amanda Razani, and I'm excited to be here today with Chris Yates. He is the SVP Product Design and Engineering at Pantheon. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Amanda. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you on the show. Can you share a little bit about the services that Pantheon provides?
Yeah, so Pantheon is, as we say, where the web works. So we are focused on enabling organizations to, build and ship on the web at scale, which means both, I describe it in three dimensions. It means that we have customers that need to build and run business critical websites that receive sometimes, tens of millions of page views per hour in really spiky ways. So that's the vertical scale. We have customers that scale horizontally. They don't have one website. They have often hundreds or thousands of websites, and they have to figure out how to manage through that chaos. And the third dimension is people, and the people that form the web team, whether they're technologists, they're editors, they're authors, they're designers, all have to come and work together. And that is an interesting kind of ballet, especially when you add in kind of our new coworkers that are toiling alongside us in the form of LLMs and agents. But we have customers that have hundreds or thousands of people involved in their portfolios of websites. So Pantheon's service is really oriented around serving the whole web team, regardless of that dimension of scale or across all three.
Awesome. Well, we're going to talk today about the implementation of AI tools everywhere and the trust factor that comes from
Yeah.
that. So, my first question is just from your experience, where is there a bottleneck when it comes to trusting AI and all these tools? And how is this affecting teams?
I think the bottlenecks are just evolving or emerging, especially for customers that are, especially like our customers, our users, the people that create websites that run on Pantheon or people that build websites that matter to their organization, to their business. And those customers often have, rigorous approaches to security and compliance and quality. What we've seen with the kind of this leap that AI tools have made just in the last 6 months is like this incredible improvement of the speed at which we can create things. We can write code faster, we can create imagery and videos and text faster. But now we've kind of hit this point of like, well, now we have to go push this all through the processes that we put up for good reason to create governance around the things that we do to ensure that we are keeping our data and our customers' data secured to ensure that we meet the quality standards that we expect, whether that's for the prose that we ship as marketing copy or editorial copy or stories on a news website, or the performance of the site that we code or design together. So that is an interesting challenge, kind of moving the velocity of creation into the missing pieces of governance in some worlds where we have to figure out a way to really create the scaffolding that enables that speed to kind of carry through to the actual production realization of all of the magic that we get from these new tools.
Yeah, absolutely. AI is speeding up, but how do companies see what's actually happening behind the scenes with AI? How do they track that?
It's been tough in the world of the web because the way that websites have been built for 30 years really is multifaceted. You have one element that is very much technical, and it is driven by the code that you create. The languages have shifted and morphed over the years, but it's still code kind of creates the scaffolding for how the site is going to look, how the site is going to behave, how the site is going to perform. But then you have content that hydrates that code effectively, and that comes through. In the old days, it was you have a content management system that then spits out content and code and combines it and serves it on an Apache web server. I'm kind of dating myself at this point. But now it's, then went into full stack kind of monolithic CMSs, Drupal, WordPress on the open source side, Sitecore, Adobe AM, and so on the commercial side of things. And now we've kind of come full circle back to these decoupled architectures with, APIs driving things like Next.js or Astra. The challenge across all of those things has been that there are processes for looking into the code. Most organizations, mid-market to enterprise, are probably using something like GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket. They've got checks that run whenever you create a pull request, whenever you make a commit. A bunch of things are going to happen, and most of the time you can catch, because those tools are getting better at doing static and dynamic analysis, where there are bugs, where there are, things that, secrets or keys or et cetera, things that shouldn't be in the code that might impact security or performance. But really, there hasn't been a great scaffolding around how we do the same with content and the intersection of content and code. So that's been a big challenge in the industry as we've just increased the velocity of creation of all of those things. So that's one of the things that I'm spending a lot of time on personally, but also across the Pantheon organization. We're spending a lot of time building that kind of next generation of tools to go give a deep view into both the content and the code base so that we can understand all of the changes, whether they're human changes or they're AI-driven changes, and get kind of the bird's eye view within a site or across many sites.
From your experience, where are you seeing the most negative impact or things breaking down from people relying too heavily on AI without that oversight?
I think there's always been this tension, I think, AI or no, historically between kind of the needs of the technology side and the needs of the, I'll just call it the business side in general. You could call it, it might be marketing, it might be editorial, whatever that is in the organization, around kind of like the control and the speed and flexibility. And I think what is happening is there are more shortcuts, there's more shadow IT, there are more things that attach to the side of organizations, and enable some additional ease or speed or kind of offloading of toil from creation of things with AI, but kind of come through the side door versus coming in the normal process by which content or code changes get into the system. And one of the other big challenges of that is inherent with that is that understanding what the tools are doing becomes increasingly challenging. So I can ask Claude or Claude Code or Codex to create me a new website, to create me a new page, and it might be beautiful. It might be mostly functional. But then when I need to go change it, if I don't have the exact domain expertise, it becomes really difficult to go say, well, I actually wanted to do this, or I want to make sure it's not doing that. That becomes super difficult. So really need to create scaffolding around how that works, so that when an AI tool generates something for us, it's not just vibing and taking its compendium of every amount of human knowledge and using it to shape a picture that we want, whether that picture is literally an image or it's a prototype of a web app or a website. We need something that allows us to kind of be on this kind of common plane between how a human user can understand and then go and interact and edit that content, whether it's actual text content, it's imagery, it's a combination of things that come into a web page, or it's the code that sits below it. So I think that scaffolding and the kind of the challenge of things coming in the side, in this, as people adopt tools very rapidly in organizations, because it's a very exciting time to be in technology, sometimes terrifying time, but a lot of people are trying a lot of different things at once.
Yes. Well, what advice would you have for companies if they want to install some guardrails or some systems in place, make sure they stay in control of the AI implementation?
I mean, first of all, if they're not already implementing kind of a code review pipeline that has built-in kind of safeguards and checks where anything that's introduced into the technical side, the code side of your application, whether it's a monolith or it's a decoupled or application, that you're applying those basic checks, whether they're available directly through a tool like GitHub or you're plugging them into other code quality and vulnerability detection tools, etc. The other side is a bit more challenging today, but I think there are there are safeguards that you can start to put in place around how you think of kind of your organizational governance. So it's less of like the hard stops, but more of the soft stops in terms of how you think about standardization of tools. So instead of picking, 4 different prototyping tools, let's, say we're going to use this one. You can build some scaffolding around how those the code or the content is actually created. We've been leveraging custom skills that we create, things like we've created kind of Pantheon internal skills. We've created an engineering codex that really encompasses a lot of the customs, a lot of the rules that we use internally that we can kind of seed our AI tooling, whether it's related to engineering work or it's related to marketing work or it's related to content creation, and with kind of a rule set to start from. Those are like soft guardrails. And we're working on, in terms of our product development, on harder guardrails around how the actual integration of code and content work together to build websites where, we have a structure that enforces, basically a set of components that you can use that can be assembled by humans or assembled by agents or generative LLMs in order to kind of stay on the same page, use the similar the common substrate for humans and machines to interact.
I think another thing people are concerned about is sort of there's a lot of the AI slop out there is the term I hear a lot of,
Yes.
and very generic dry AI content. So keeping brand voice and the vision of the brand, what advice do you have when it comes to that?
That's one of the things that we've built into even just for our internal use, we've actually built into our design system. So we have a really robust design system that our team built to govern like how Pantheon looks, acts, and works, and it enables us to do things amazingly quickly. We have designers that can spin up new prototypes in minutes using generative AI tooling. But we also built into that is some of those guardrails around the corporate communication standards, around the product language that we use. So we bake that into that tool set. So in addition to saying I can prompt Claude or another tool to create a new prototype that has really tremendous fidelity and usability and matches the standards of other products that we are creating and are in production at Pantheon. We also ensure that like the language that we put into that, whether it's what a button says or how we describe an alert, how that actually reads, how it is understood. So we can create greater uniformity. And that really is a tremendous shortcut to just the productivity of being able to do these things, and get these prototypes in the hands of our users to get rapid feedback and tighten the cycle of development. But it also applies to things on the, more of the go-to-market side of our business. And I think that's also, regardless of what type of business you are, I think that's an opportunity to codify some of those standards about, how you talk about your organization, what you say, what you don't say, create those guidelines. The next step really is something that we're working on as part of our product vision to enable that to just plug into the content management tooling, to be able to have that as basically an agent that might continuously work in the background, or a network of agents driven by your own rules, so driven by what the organization defines as kind of their standard for how content is created, or how images are used, or how media is presented, or how code is worked on, and enable that kind of continuous improvement process to go on in the background. But within the other thing that I think is really important, as organizations are considering how to deploy AI created essentially products or output into production, is, do you have a process by which you can look at this stuff first? How do you put a human in the loop? How do you ensure a quality process? All of these things, whether they're automated checks on your code or they're automated suggestions and reviews of your content, are wonderful, but there's really no substitute for saying, wow, that looks right. I can see the before and after very clearly, which means you have to have a structure for seeing what the future state will be. So being able to have, a replica of production, or maybe several replicas of production where you have different work streams going on. So having a system that you can kind of pre-flight all of that, all of the changes that you're making, I think is really critical as you're introducing a greater pace of change into your organization with AI tools.
Yeah. So having that human in the process is still pretty critical.
I think so. And like there's a lot of we can actually use AI to improve that and call attention to the things that have changed. We can recognize the drift. These tools are wonderful for that, but you have to have a place for that to run too. So you have to have, something outside of production that you can look at, say, yep, that's right. What the AI has highlighted has changed, or what the deterministic script has highlighted has changed, shows me what I need to pay attention to. And now I can say, yes, you can't just do that in production. So you have to have this, have a tool set that enables you to have multiple versions of your site or even of your fleet.
Absolutely. Well, if there was one key takeaway you could leave our audience today with, what would that be?
I think that we've gotten to the excitement stage of this, where like there's really rapid adoption. I think we've turned a corner in most organizations from I don't know about this to oh my gosh, I need to use this everywhere. I think my recommendation is don't wait on the next step, which is how do we drive governance, and how do we put these guardrails on how we're doing things. It doesn't mean necessarily slowing them down, pulling putting on the brakes on the whole thing, but being thoughtful about what is the human in the loop process for evaluating these changes. Are there some fail safes that we can introduce? Are there some ways that we can generate efficiency? Because now, in most organizations with other technology leaders I've talked to, there's experimentation going on everywhere in every single department, and I think having those people come together and also have some key leaders drive some standardization is super helpful, because that will just drive efficiency and safety and governance across the organization.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing your insights.
Absolutely. This is great. Thanks, Amanda.
And thank you to our audience. If you have any questions or comments, of course, leave those and I'll try to reply back. And until the next podcast, have a wonderful week.